up your engine!
Well, here's some interesting future news. Mazda is bringing back a straight six-cylinder engine. A lot of classic people like a straight six-cylinder engine. Turns out that in 2023, the CX-5 crossover is going to have an inline six-cylinder engine and rear-wheel drive. It'll be a classic vehicle. A lot of people like straight sixes. They can run forever. They like rear-wheel drive for the handling. They say that'll be out as early as March 2022. It's going to be a straight six, 3 years later, have about 300 horsepower. Modern technology. Mazda's working with Toyota. Should be an interesting vehicle. They want to compete with the BMW X3, and let me tell you, if they make it quality with the Mazda and Toyota amalgamation, it would blow the X3s out of the water, because those are the most breakdown, expensive to repair vehicles. They look nice. People buy them because they like the way they ride and how they look, but hoo-wee, they're endless money pits. And Mazda builds something like that that's not a money pit, boy, they're going to be taking that crossover market over, that's for sure. I like the idea of a straight six. I had a Ford Maverick ages ago with the straight six, and that engine just ran and ran and ran. The body rusted away, but the engine was still running strong. And a modern version of the straight six with 300 horsepower, boy, I can't wait till they have out there and I get the road test one. Mixture22 says, Scotty, I'm having an issue with my 2019 Murano. Loses power after trying to jump start my friend's car. The battery light is on. I try to jump, it's losing power. Now my car shuts off. I changed the battery and it worked for 30 miles. Any advice on what's going on? Okay. Here is a good warning, a true caveat, if you know Latin. I had to take that crap when I was a young kid. I hated it, but then again, now I know some Latin. Pray that it popped a fuse or melted a wire. Check all your fuses. It could have popped the fuse for alternator power. Pray that's all it did, because if it didn't, you changed the battery and it lasted 30 minutes. It's obviously not charging. It could have ruined the alternator. But realize, and this is why I tell people, do not jump start cars with your modern cars. There's too many computers. If you had your car running when you tried to jump start his car, it could have fried computer modules. You want to pray that it only blew the fuse of the alternator. Now, it also could have ruined the alternator. If it's not the fuse, pray it's just the alternator, because all modern cars, the computer controls all that stuff too, and it could have fried your main computer, which costs a fortune. Pray it's just a blown fuse. And if it's not that, try a new alternator and pray that's what goes on. But let me tell you something. You got a 2019. It should still be under warranty. Take it in under warranty, and you might get a free alternator out of it. But don't tell them what you did, because they'll say, oh, yeah, you ruined it. Now you got to pay for it. It's not under warranty anymore. So just say, oh, my car did this. Could you please fix it for me? And leave it at that. Don't explain to them what you did. Madman says, is GM still garbage like the 2016 Malibu and Impala I had? I might have a job at one of their factories here in Rochester, New York, and I'd get a discount on vehicles. I would only consider if I could get it cheaply. Yes, they still are garbage, you know. Viewer sent me a thing and said, Scotty, how come people are saying GM is great, and then you say how bad they are? Well, because people work for GM. Lots of people work for GM. And of course, they're going to tell you their products are good because that's how they make a living. If people stop buying them, all those people would lose jobs. And so that's why you get a lot of false information on things that have to do with companies that make a lot of money. You know, I'm sure, you know, look at all the money McDonald's spends advertising about how great their food is. And then watch some of these YouTube movies people make about, you know, supersize me. I ate nothing but McDonald's and I got big and fat and cholesterol, almost died of a heart attack. So just because people say something is good doesn't mean that it's good. And unfortunately, they aren't good. Maybe they'll have better luck in the future when they switch to electric cars. But from my experience, if a corporation is dead from the neck up, it doesn't matter what they're making. All their products are going to be problematic because they just want to fill their executive pockets with money as much as they possibly can. And they don't really care about the products themselves. They just want to make money for themselves. And they don't really care about the workers or the people that buy their products. They only want to make money, stuff their own pockets. And if something goes wrong, they get a golden parachute and they float away with $100 million. Darren S. says, you said big engines outlast small turbo engines, but what about turbo diesels? I want a 2014 Grand Cherokee for driving. Would you get the 5.7 Hemi or the 3-point turbo diesel? They cost about the same. All right, well, that is a Fiat Chrysler product. I would not advise buying it, period. Now, normally, diesel engines are well made. They're solid built because they take so much more pressure inside than a gasoline engine because they ignite the fuel just by pressure. They don't use an ignition system, so there's a lot more pressure inside, so they have to build them better. And diesel engine turbochargers have been around for decades, and they can last a really long time. But if you absolutely positively have to buy a Jeep Grand Cherokee, get the Hemi, get the V8, do not get the diesel. Because you get one of their things now, it's got an Italian diesel engine in it, and they are junk. I've seen those things blow up with 60,000 miles. You take regular big diesel engines, they can go 3, 4, 5, 6, 700,000 miles. Not the Italian ones. At least if you get the 5.7 Hemi, you're getting an American simple pushrod V8 engine that's relatively reliable and can go a long way. You know, you're not putting it in a Dodge Hellcat where you're driving like a maniac doing burnouts. It's in a Grand Cherokee for just driving around. You drive it normally, it can last a long time. Do not buy one with the Italian diesel engine in it, because the Italians do not make the greatest engines in the world, and you certainly wouldn't want to spend all that money getting an Italian diesel engine that broke, and then good luck finding somebody who can fix it in the United States. Mark says, I recently was lucky and inherited a 2016 Toyota Corolla LE automatic with 18,000 miles. I want to drive it forever. Can you give me tips? I don't know much about cars. Thanks. All right. Boy, did you hit the jackpot. Toyota Corolla LE. Those things can run forever. It's only got 18,000 miles. What you want to do is every 5,000 miles, change the engine oil and filter and keep air in the tires. You probably won't have to do much of anything for quite some time. Now, as they age, you want to do normal maintenance. On that car, change the coolant once every 7 years. So that's not for quite some time. You want to be a fanatic, change the transmission fluid if you want every 40, 50,000 miles. Other than that, drive the thing. Those things, I've had customers buy cars like that. All they did was change the oil every 5,000 miles. And you know what they did the first 100,000 miles? Nothing else but put tires on it. Even the brake pads lasted over 100,000 miles. So you hit the jackpot on that one. If you don't know much about cars, that is the perfect car for somebody who doesn't know much about cars. Because all you got is put gas in it, air in the tires once in a while, start it up and drive it. NTA 98 says, our Fiat Chryslers are the worst cars. Greeting from Pennsylvania. Just in the past week, I saw a new Dodge truck stuck at an intersection. Then I saw a new Durango get loaded on a flatbed in a grocery store parking lot and taken away. I saw a little Fiat 500 go through an intersection, and the wheel fell off it mid-turn. Every time I see these, I think of your videos. Well, yeah, I do have to say, in the United States, cars that are sold, Fiat Chryslers are probably the worst absolute vehicles that are made in terms of quality control, of how fast they break down, and how they don't stand behind them. I've had customers with the Fiat 500s that they started burning oil when they had 30,000 miles. The dealer would do nothing about it. They wouldn't fix it. And I've even seen people where they supposedly fixed the engines, they got it back, and then a few months later, the engines broke again. I mean, they are rolling piles of junk. The Italians are notorious for making junky cars throughout history. That's why Fiat pulled out of the United States like 30-something years ago. And the only reason they came back was because Fiat bought Chrysler, and they thought, we're going to sell Fiats in the United States again. They did, and they're not selling that many of them. And from what I read, they're kind of talking about pulling out of the United States. They're not going to stop selling Chryslers, but they're not going to sell Fiats anymore as a standalone car. That's what they're talking about. And whether they do or don't is kind of immaterial because they don't sell that many of them. Take your falling a wheel off Fiat 500. At one point, they sold 55,000 or so 1 year in the United States. But last year, they sold, I guess, like 1,500 or something. And so what's the point? If you're selling that small amount of cars, there's no point in having a dealership and selling them here. So they'll probably pull out. And they do make junk. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Ask anybody who's had it over any length of time. You know, I met people who said, oh, Scotty, I love my Fiat 500. And I said, how many miles you got in that thing? He said, well, I got 11,000 miles on it, and it's 5 years old. I said, you only got 11,000 miles. I hope it didn't fall apart yet. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.